Greetings, hello, good day, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining True Hope Cast, the official podcast of True Hope Canada. Now, True Hope Cast takes a deep dive into mental health's many psychological and physiological aspects. This is the show for you if you're looking for motivation, inspiration, knowledge, and solutions. And that is really what we are all about here at True Hope Canada. And True Hope Canada is a mind and body based supplement company that is dedicated first and foremost to promoting brain and body health through non invasive nutritional means. For more information about us, you can visit truehopecanada.com. Today on the show, though, I've got the pleasure of welcoming Skylar Roth-MacDonald to the podcast. Now, Skylar grew up in Central Alberta with soccer being one of his main passions. His life took a massive turn in 2009 and in 2012 after losing his two best friends to suicide at just 12 and 17 years of age. With depression and various mental health battles taking up much of Skylar's youth, he hit a big turning point in 2016. Now, though, Skylar has applied the strength he has gained through adversity to big goals and has since climbed over 100 mountains, ran over 150 marathons, and ran across Canada for mental health awareness. Today, Skylar lives in Calgary and is speaking to schools all over the country full time. He's also coaching runners and athletes as well. Today, we're going to be discussing what it really means to be a mental health advocate. Enjoy the show. Okay, good morning, Skylar. Welcome to True Hope Cast. Thank you so much for being with me today. How are you? What is going well?
Good morning, Simon. Thanks for having me. Pretty relaxed morning. Things are good. Just getting geared up for 2023, getting into schools to present about my Canada run, of course, mental health as well. So, and then of course, just getting excited and ready for the holidays. So, yeah.
That's great, buddy. Yeah, 2023 is like fast approaching, and yeah, it's such an interesting time for a do-over, a refresher for the year, and you can start things new. You can try different things, and obviously projects like you've got you going on yourself. It's so important to have plans in regards to like what you're going to do with your passion, what you're going to do with your goal and your mission, etc. So yeah, it's obviously very important to plan those things out. So that's really cool, man. That's awesome. As a little introduction, can you just let the audience know a little bit more about who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, I'm just a dude who loves to run a lot and, values mental health. So in 2021, I ran across Canada, 7,300 kilometer journey. Did that in just over 4 months, 143 days. And we raised $65,000 for the Canadian Mental Health Association. So that was a big win. So I'm a runner and a mental health advocate, essentially.
You've got to seriously love running to do that, man. That's what. So you basically ran for 4 months.
Ran for 4 months every day. We would do. I guess there was like some rest days because there's a lot I wanted to see across Canada. Like I'd never really been across Canada, so to spend days in Montreal and Ottawa and see family out east, that was great. But on the running days, we were doing anywhere from 50 to 85K a day. So lots of running, lots of eating, lots of sleeping. But I loved it. It was so much fun, and I definitely want to do it again.
That's wild. When you say did you have like a team of people like kind of like driving with you, like supporting you? And obviously you would need to have the ability to rest, food and drink, etc.
Yeah, man, this is ultra running especially. But I mean, when you're doing a 7,300 kilometer run, it's a team sport. Like I would have to run, and then everyone else would have to have meals ready, do my laundry, drive the RV, do a lot of like social media. And honestly, I only had one driver at a time. One of the biggest difficulties with the run wasn't the running itself, it was the logistics. So to ask someone to dedicate that much time, to volunteer is a really tough ask. So I had several drivers along the way volunteer and dedicate their time and help me achieve this dream and this goal. So very much a team effort. I was just the runner, and I would much rather be the runner than driving that RV, because essentially how it works, each day we start, I have breakfast, we make a game plan. Every day I'm feeling a little bit different. Some days I feel great, some days I don't. So typical day might be like, all right, let's meet 10 to 12K down the road. I'll meet up with you. You know, I'll fill up my water bottles, grab a quick bite, do any adjustments, and then make a game plan for the next stop. So if I'm feeling good, we'll maybe go a little bit longer. If you know, I want to make it a bit shorter, we'll do that. So, and then the driver drives that distance and waits for me. So very, very patient job. You have to be patient to do that job. So man, I shout out to the drivers. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys.
Yeah, I think that's it. Just your description of that whole process. It's an interesting metaphor for mental health, right? Because you're going out there, you've got this goal, you've got this challenge, you've got this big thing that you want to do. And for a lot of people in depressive states or anxious states, or people who have like bipolar or something, you know, they have this like wild challenge every single day, and you need support. You need people around you to help guide you, to help, you know, keep you motivated, to just be an ear for you. So, you know, it's very interesting that like you talk about running across the country on your own as a team sport. And it just, you know, it just says to me that, you know, mental health and just being a human being is without question like a communal team effort, that you need other people around you in order to, you know, do life successfully. So that's really interesting. Why did you run across the country? Why is that, like, you know, that big advocacy for mental health? Like, where does the birth of that like drive come from?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, first of all, I've always had the idea in the back of my head, even before I really knew what mental health struggle was. Just as an innocent kid, you'd hear about Terry Fox and do the Terry Fox run in school. And to hear someone run from one end of the country to the other was just mind-blowing and inspiring to me. And I always thought I'd maybe want to try that one day. And then as I got older and, you know, mental health became a high priority and very important to me, you know, a little backstory is like, I actually lost a best friend of mine to suicide. We were 12 years old. So at a very young age, like, I was in that dark cloud, that dark time, that confusing time when I didn't have the tools to get through it, and just really held a lot of that pain and that hurt in. And so mental health has been no stranger to me, and especially depression and you know, anxiousness. And I lost another best friend when I was 16 to suicide. So it's really been a big part of my life, and it's been a big pain in the past. Like, I remember the days where I wouldn't be able to get out of bed in the morning and just have no hope and not know if life gets better. I didn't believe it would. But there was a turning point, and I knew that I needed to live not just a full life for me. You have one life here, and you have to fill that with what makes you happy. And so I made that my mission. And I also made it my mission to live a full life for Josh and for Eli, whose lives got cut way too short. So they're my inspiration. They're my motivation. So once the pandemic came around, that's when I committed to running across Canada. I knew that depression and mental health was impacting more people than ever across not just Canada, but the world. And now is the time to run across Canada. If I don't do it now, I probably never would. I have so much time. I can't travel and leave the country. So another great time to see our beautiful country. And I'm so glad I did it. And, you know, people ask me, like, were you worried about like quitting or like not finishing? And when you have that why, like, especially for mental health, like my why is Josh and Eli. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that I'd be able to get to the finish line. Like, when you have an inspiration like Josh and Eli, like, you can honestly do everything and anything you want. And that's what I want to share with people is like, these dark times don't stay forever. You can get through them even when you don't think you can. I never in my life would have guessed that I'd run across Canada, ever. 5 years ago, if you asked me, I would have laughed. So you're limitless and you don't know what you can achieve. And I just want to share that with people, man. People can do so many amazing things. So.
Yeah, it's super inspirational, and yeah, I think that obviously with the experience you've had, like growing up with people, people committing suicide, um, it's obviously a really valuable thing that you probably learned as a very young man. You know, like I don't know anybody who's committed suicide, and I would only I could only believe that there would be a huge lesson to you as an individual, to recognize that obviously life is super precious, and yeah, like having these young people not live the rest of their lives and do amazing things, and it's really super unfortunate. Like 12 years old, like that's so unbelievably young, and it's like how is the system, society, community like allowed that to actually happen? And obviously that's a huge big question. We could talk about that for a long time, but if you're, if I feel like if your run, this great massive thing that you did, could inspire like one kid to like reach out to another person rather than taking their own life, then that's just a huge, unbelievable victory, just that one person. But I believe that you're going to inspire lots of other people when they hear about this story. And we'll talk more about like what you're going to do in the next year, and going and talking to schools. I think that's just such an amazing thing, like going to the source of probably the biggest demographic of like mental health challenges at the moment. Yeah, obviously we had the pandemic with lockdowns, and we had all this like isolation, we had all this separation, and I could only imagine how difficult it would have been for those kids that like really rely on going to school every day and being with their peers, and being able to like play sports, and being able to like be creative and do all those things. That's a huge part of that part of turning into like a young adult. So having that ripped away from you is very, very challenging and very difficult. So like, we have to have measures put in place to be able to support those people when they do need help. And what was your, with the actual run itself, like was there like a primary goal? You've spoken about like the charitable aspect, so you certainly touch on that for me, please. But also like the awareness piece, like what does awareness like mean to you?
Yeah. So like, first of all, my financial, or not my, I guess my financial goal, I guess, was to raise $50,000. So we raised 65,000. That was great. That was amazing. But mental health awareness to me, and like the way I would do that, it was tough during the pandemic. Like you couldn't, like schools were barely in. So, to get a guest speaker is kind of out of the question. But I did some virtuals. I did a lot of news segments, newspapers. But I think ultimately it's just being vulnerable and leading by example. Like I know when I was in high school or middle school and I was a younger kid, like to see a young man or a grown man, just talk about his mental health, just like he would talk about like a broken arm or a broken leg, is huge. Asking for help is something we need to do more of. There's no shame in asking for help. And I talk about that in schools. Like if you broke your leg, you wouldn't even think twice of asking for help. You go to the hospital. And, our brain is the most important, arguably the most important part of our body. And you can't get brain transplants yet, at least. So we have to prioritize that. And that's something that, especially in the healthcare system, needs to change. But yeah, just, speaking about this and being open and being vulnerable, I think that, at least for me, that's inspirational when I see other people do that. So, that's my hope for others, when I can be open and talk about my mental health struggles, and not everything's perfect, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that not everything's perfect is a really point, because like we obviously have a large group of young people, like, are on social media, they rely on that, and they see a particular reality that is obviously fabricated and literally filtered, right? So it's interesting where you if that was a large part of your world. I'm nearly 40, so I'm lucky to have like kind of missed that whole bubble, especially when I was a teenager going in school. It must be a really, really difficult thing to see. Like if you're, you seeing all these people like doing all these things and being all these things, and maybe you're not doing that much, or you perceive that you're not doing that much.
Right.
It could
Yeah,
be a
exactly.
really challenging thing for you, just as when you're, really kind of figuring out like who you are and what it is that you want to do. Just before we kind of like move on, I really want to talk about the charity itself, but I wanted to know, like, how did I, and I've been in Canada for a long time. I'm blown away that I've not heard about this run and this massive charitable thing that you've done. Would there be like a group or an organization that I could like follow, or I could sign up to a newsletter, for example, to hear about things like this in the future?
It's tough. Like, I think if you were in the running scene, you might have heard about it. But yeah, it was pretty quiet. But like I said, we raised our goal and everything like that, and there was a lot of people that reached out and that kind of stuff. As where you can follow or learn about future things. I think just social media would be the best way, like running niches. There's another runner, Dave Proctor from Calgary. He ran across Canada this year, and he ran across Canada in 67 days, 110 kilometers a day. It's the speed record. So, and that should have been way bigger too. So I don't
That's
know.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's actually almost impossible to wrap your brain around. But yeah, running's not the most popular sport in the world, so it's tough if an NBA player, an NFL player ran across the country, you would hear about that. So
yeah, I don't think we have a lot of listeners in like Europe and around the world. I don't think people recognize how massive and wide Canada is. I think there's 6 time zones, but it's absolutely like preposterous. 4.5. Okay, yeah, it's preposterously large, and it's not like you could probably get south to north and north to south of England in probably a couple of days, to be honest.
I'm going to put in my GPS right now, Google Maps, to see how far Portugal to Russia is in kilometers, to put in perspective.
Yeah, do that. That's interesting.
But yeah, like to run, I think his name's Nick Butters. He's a English runner, and he's run a marathon. He's the only person to run a marathon in every country in the world. And he's ran around Britain. He's another great runner to follow, another person that his accomplishments should be out there a lot more than they are. So yeah, there's some fun running treks and challenges, and there's a lot of people that just inspire me. And when you follow all these people, it starts to become normal. So when you talk, like I got to the point when I would talk about my Canada run, and I would talk about almost like nonchalantly, because it just became so normal to me. And it would throw so many people off, and they'd be like, wait, you're doing what? It's like, oh yeah. I guess it is a little bit nuts.
I'm just trying to get my mind around like how, like, obviously you've got the raising money for charity, amazing thing to do, doing something huge to bring awareness to the cause of why you're doing it. How do you think that doing something like running across Canada is going to directly influence, motivate, open the minds up of young people?
I think just because I had such like a normal like childhood, in the sense like I wasn't in like, I wanted to be a professional football player, European football, soccer. And like I thought you had to be in all these academies and have all these advantages. I just felt like I could never reach that. And I thought you had to have like be equipped with like these special things or like this incredible talent, and basically be born to reach these dreams, which I eventually got to the point where I just realized it's consistency and hard work, those 2 things. And when you put those into what you love, like it's not work, and you get really good at it because you just want to do it all the time. So for me, running is that's all I did. And I got to the point where I got to turn professional, and like I never would have guessed that. But at the end of the day, it's just hard work and consistency, and anyone can do that. So to share that message with kids, and not just kids, but anyone, like you can be 40 years old and go and start something, learn another language, learn another instrument. I just saw a 91-year-old graduated from university. Like that's so inspiring. And it's just anyone can be consistent and work hard.
So it's like an idea of like showing what just like fundamental ethics of like, you know, of working hard and kind of sticking with things and reaping the benefits later. And, you know, you can dream big at that point.
Yeah, and I think you hear it all the time, do what you love, and you really have to, because if you want to get good at something, you have to do it consistently over a long period of time. So it makes sense to do what you love, because if you don't pick something that you love, you're probably not going to be consistent and you're probably not going to do it for a long time. And so yeah, it's do what you love, and that can be scary because it's a big leap. Sometimes you don't have the financial security. Sometimes, you know, like you don't have that 2-week paycheck. The startup is very difficult, but it's always worth it. Like when I started this run across Canada, I put every penny I had into it, and I didn't know how to email companies. I didn't know how to like do anything with an RV. I didn't, you know, it was, you know, work with a charity. So it's just really spending time out of your comfort zone and in a realm of something that you love, and you're going to inevitably be good at it. I've never seen anyone work hard at something and not achieve their goal. Sure, sometimes you might take a couple times to reach it, but you will get it. And qualifying for the Boston Marathon, great example of it. For me, that's a big goal. I have to run a marathon in under 3 hours. That might take 3 or 4 attempts, but I know that I will be able to do it because I'm putting in the hard work.
Yeah, I think just being able to push yourself physically and mentally, and like, you know, trying to do something like running a marathon to 3 hours, that takes so much work, so much commitment to yourself, and that only that's only going to, you know, breed the types of qualities that's going to, you know, create successful individuals, I think. And I think taking responsibility for things is something that young people want. I think it's what they need. And I think that, yeah, like if you can show them that you can do these amazing things, and it's only going to, yeah, motivate and inspire them to think that they can do similar things or greater things, or even just like, you know, I don't know, minor accomplishments. I don't even know what that really means, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Which charity were you associated with, and why did you choose them?
So the Canadian Mental Health Association. I had to pick one because I wanted it to, because I'm running across Canada for all Canadians. So for me to pick like a local charity, that doesn't help all Canadians. So once I kind of read more about the Canadian Mental Health Association, it was a no-brainer. And you know, it is a great organization. They have branches throughout all of Canada. And they work, you know, within the community, and there's some really great programs out there. I highly recommend anyone to check them out. I stopped in at a lot of locations along the run and got to meet their staff and see the programs, and it's a great organization.
Amazing. In regards to like Canada as a country, like I've only been here for like 7 or 8 years, but you obviously lived here your whole life. And at such a young age, you were exposed to significant mental health crisis, you know, like within your school, within your classroom, within your friend circle. So do you think like as a country right now, we're in like good shape when it comes to treating mental illness? Because obviously over the last couple of years, like it's just shot through the roof, especially in teenagers. We can talk about literally all demographics in regards to that, but especially like kids and teenagers. We've never kind of seen mental illness in the type of state that it's at right now. But in your experience, do you think like Canada, like we're in like we do like a decent job or a good job or a bad job at like supporting those kids?
It's a great question. I think from like school's perspective, or like from like counselors and like people that are very passionate about mental health, they have like the best intentions, but they have to work with the resources and the budgets that they have. Where we do an extremely horrible job is the higher ups, like the people that are in charge of like the healthcare system and the budgets. 3 months before I actually started the run across Canada, I was in a really dark point in my life, and I self-admitted myself to the mental health unit, and I really got to see what it was like. And you know, it's just little things, like people in the higher ups that make that decision to make that the meal supply for the mental health unit and the rest of the hospital the same as the prison meal supply. Someone made that decision and can sleep at night with that.
Mm-hmm.
there's people that are wanting to take their lives and actually have the courage to ask for help. And they go to a hospital and they're turned away because there's not enough beds. That's so wrong. And, not only that, if you want to go and talk to a therapist or a counselor, we ask people to talk and we encourage people to speak and ask for help. But you have to pay $150 an hour, or, that might be an exaggeration. Sometimes it is more, but sometimes it's less. But we don't treat it like we should, and it should be way more accessible. And, the higher ups have all these statistics that they put on their websites and everything, but do they really make an effort to change it? I don't think so. So that's my 2 cents. But yeah, I think from the bottom, like from the ground and the front lines, I think our hearts and our minds are in the right spot, and we're prioritizing it the best we can. Working with these schools, the teachers and the counselors are all on board and they agree with the message, but we need to change from a higher up.
Yeah, there's such a massive, massive literal division between the people making the decisions and then the people who are having to experience the end result of those decisions. And yeah, I personally don't think the smartest, most intelligent, competent people go and work for the government, in my opinion, especially in the higher ups. It's actually blown my mind in the past few years to the level of incompetence that is running our country, and probably most countries and most governments around the world, right? Like, so unrelatable, especially like in the UK is the same thing. We have, ministers that have never had to, struggle on a monthly basis for food and stuff like that. And they're making the decisions for millions of people. So I wouldn't want to be in that position either, but it's like, if you have like, let's say, for example, we have like people who are in charge of the health of, millions of people, and you can look at them and you can say that there's no chance that that's a healthy individual. Like, how are they to give advice in regards to that? And I love what you said about, I didn't know that, but like the food and the nutritional quality of like a prison is exactly the same as if you were, in a mental health institution. Like, what we know about nutritional deficiency and mental health disorders and the link to that, like, that's just an absolute no-brainer. Science is unbelievably solid on that. So someone's either just ignoring that, or they're just like not well read on it. Either way, it's completely ignorant and it's completely unacceptable. So yeah, again, that's another topic we could just absolutely rip on all day. Do you think that there are some simple things that we could be doing better? Like, maybe like not on a government federal, like 40 million people type of basis, but maybe in like maybe smaller towns, smaller communities. Do you think there's some things that we could be doing better?
Even from like just a simple thing, like, social interaction is huge. So just like even organizing activities, it doesn't even have to be an emphasis on mental health, but just doing like group runs. It doesn't even have to be exercise. It could be like, I don't know, anything. I think that's a really easy way to start, especially since the pandemic. We haven't really got to see face-to-face. So interaction is good. That also gives other people a chance to, kind of pick up on red flags if people are struggling too. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do as individuals as well. When I look at mental health, kind of look at it as a spectrum. If you look at, some days you sit at different places on that spectrum. So if you look at it as like a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like you're suicidal, 1 being like you're on cloud 9, recognizing when you're about to hit like if for me now, and this is something I wish I did in high school, when I recognize that I'm at like a 3 or a 4, maybe it's been like a bad morning, I have a list of things that I can do. Meditate, have a shower, go on a run, read, journal. Simple things that I know that work for me, that I make a list. When I am in a good state, I can make a list in my iPhone and be like, okay, this works. This is making me really happy right now. So that when I am going through those darker times, I can reference this list and I can be like, okay, let's try these. So when I recognize that I'm at like a 3 out of 10, I start to look at that list and do a few things. Because when you wait until you're at like a 7, 8, 9, it's really, really tough to get out of that. So that's something that I think a lot of people can do just as individuals. That's really helped with me.
Yeah, that's huge. That's literally simple tools that you can do that are at home. They're available for you to kind of do at any point. But I think what's missing for a lot of people is the ability to recognize or to put themselves on that type of a scale, to have that like self-reflective ability. I think that's something that you either learn from maybe your parents, you learn from an amazing teacher, or you go through something traumatic and you learn, you recognize that that's something you kind of need to do for your own like mental health. I don't think that's something that we particularly like focus on, like maybe in like schools and teaching kids how to recognize their emotions. There's obviously schools that do something like that, but like on a broad scale, like we should be teaching kids about their emotions, how that works, what they can do to help themselves when they're feeling anxious or rageful or anger. And again, like asking questions and being open to support and some help. I think we're like slowly moving out of this like World War II parental way that we had. Like I know that my grandfather would have parented my dad in in the 50s, like 8 years after the Second World War had ended, right? And there was literally there was no time to really go through like feelings and emotions and things with like kids. Like they were literally like in wartime, right? So it was like there was no really kind of like time for that. And I understand that for sure. And then that kind of feeds into my parents' generation, and that kind of slips into me. And that slowly, I think we're becoming a little bit more aware. I mean, we're not like directly in some places in the world, we are in like war times, but not here in like Canada right now anyway. And so hopefully like, me as a parent, I feel like I'm a lot more aware of like my 3-year-old can be, an absolute hurricane of emotions. But like me as a 40-year-old adult, I can't have the expectation of him being able to regulate his emotions like I can. I've got 40 years of it, right? He's got 3. And these biochemical changes happen to him really fast. And, he like will have these outbursts, and I have to just like sit back and recognize that in more of like a casual response rather than like an immediate reaction, where it's like, you can't be angry like that just because of that, that's not okay. And it's just like, that's just a wild old school parenting role, I suppose. But I feel like we're very, very slowly weeding out of that. But I don't think we're getting enough education and enough support from the higher ups, as we've spoken to about that before. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think we're making like tremendous like headway, like you said. Like if you compare generations, like we're way more open about it, which is great. But we have such a long ways to go. So
yeah, we really do. Tell us about like your next goals. You're gonna run across Russia?
Not right now, no. I did just look at the Google Maps. So the equivalent is almost like running from Portugal to Turkey and back.
Okay, it's a long way, man. That's a lot of countries as well.
It would be super fun. And actually, so one of my goals is I would love to run around the globe. I've looked at the logistics. It's 26,000 kilometers. So about 4 times the distance of running across Canada. But, it'd be really cool. You basically have to close a loop. So you have to finish where you start, and you have to do that minimum of 26,000 kilometers. And I think you have to do, it's been a while since I checked, because the Canada run, I was like, I'm going to come back to this in a few years. But I think it's like 5 continents that you have to do. So that's something I'd love to do. But right now, like, I'd love to qualify for Boston Marathon. My girlfriend ran it last year, and I went with her, and it was so cool, the energy. So I just love to cross that off the bucket list, and it gives me a good goal to train for, and it's keeping me consistent. It's really fun. And so, I'm going to go do that, and I'm going to go run Berlin Marathon in the fall. I'm doing that as a mental health fundraiser as well, for a London charity, actually, which I know is where you're from, Simon. So it's called Rethink Mental Illness. And
awesome.
And my 2 best friends and myself, we're going to run that in memory for Eli. Sam Jordan and myself, we were best friends with Eli, and Eli was our friend who, took his life in 2012, just 20 days after his 17th birthday. So, I'm excited. We got a bunch of fundraising we're going to do, and a bunch of running. So I really can't complain.
That's amazing. Well, I'm certainly going to keep tabs on that type of progress for that one. That's awesome. And you're going to be going into schools next year and having conversations. What does that look like?
Yeah, so that was kind of something I knew I wanted to do even before I ran across Canada. So this year, at the start of the school year, in September until now, I've been into schools, phys ed classes, comm classes, health classes, and like entire schools. And I share my journey across Canada and, my journey with mental health, and, just try to inspire and motivate, the younger generations to, not just chase their dreams and set big goals, but prioritize their mental health maintenance and not be scared to ask for help.
What was the response been like so far from these younger kids?
Oh man, like I didn't realize like the impact that like I guess this journey could make, and it's so fulfilling. Like I literally have kids messaging me after saying like I saved their life or they found a passion. Like I had one young man say he loves fishing, so he's going to make it a goal to go to 5 alpine lakes in the mountains in the next 2 years and fish, because that's going to help him get into hiking in the mountains, and he gets to do what he loves. So man, when I hear that stuff, it's amazing, and it just makes me want to get in front of as many students as possible, because like I said, we can all achieve what we want to do. We just sometimes need that little push.
Yeah, I think that kids especially crave mentorship. They crave role models. They crave that type of inspiration. They even crave the stories. I'm sure just you telling them the actual story, like stories is one of the most ancient ways that we've communicated as humans forever. And I think it puts you in such a, first of all, it connects you as individuals, and it also like, it's such an emotional thing to go through, to listen to like a truly remarkable story from another human being. I think that it inspires people in a way that can't be mimicked. And we have this weird culture where we celebrate these celebrities that like live in Hollywood, and we have this very weird culture in
We
regards
do.
to that. People we never met before, people that don't really do amazing things, but like to actually meet, like a role model like yourself, like who does literally heroic stuff, that without question would inspire a lot of people to do remarkable things. And yeah, like just as you shared what that kid shared to you, like that's tingling stuff, man. That's super cool.
I appreciate it, man. At the end of the day, I just want to be that voice that I needed to hear when I was in those dark times. So it's easy for me to do. I just get up there and talk to my younger self, and it's easy, man. And if I know that it's not easy for a lot of people to be vulnerable, so maybe it's a gift that I'm able to do that, and I want to use that gift.
Yeah, I think for a lot of like young men, I think it's important that they see older men being vulnerable, being open, talking about all these types of things, and being a lot more connected to their thoughts and being more connected to their emotions. And it opens up the door for other people to do the same. And yeah, I think that's a really powerful way that you'll be able to influence people in so many different ways, man. So that's awesome. Can you let us know like how people can connect with you? I've been through your Instagram, some really cool stuff from the run. So if you're interested in that, you should certainly check that out, because what an amazing. I feel like being in British Columbia for like 5-6 years, I feel like I could spend my life just exploring this province, let alone
Oh,
the whole country. Such an amazing place to be, so fortunate. And yeah, you can, so what an amazing place to be a young person, and be into hiking and being in the forest and just being outside. Like you couldn't really ask for a better place in the world to be. So how can people connect with you, Skylar?
Oh yeah. Well, you can definitely connect with me. I'm a little bit low key. I don't have like a website yet or anything, but on Instagram, Skylar runs. You can always shoot me a message. Um, if you just need someone to talk to, even if you need tips on running, hiking, that kind of stuff. My email is Skylar Roth speaking So you can reach out to me there if you're, if any teachers or schools are listening too. Feel free to reach out to me there. I'd love to come in and speak to your students. And yeah, if you're looking for a running coach, reach out to me on either of those. I'd love to work with you too. So yeah.
And you're in Calgary, right?
I'll be moving to Calgary next month. Yeah, I'm in Central Alberta, but yeah, I'll be in Calgary. And yeah, when I'm out your way, we'll have to get out on a run.
100. Maybe we'll play football. I'm more used to running around after a football rather than running, but we can maybe mix it up and do both.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, Skylar, thanks so much, buddy, for coming on to True Hope Cast. I really appreciate it. Super inspiring stuff. I can't wait to hear more about, after maybe at the end of next year, we can hear about how it's gone with these schools, because I think it's going to be such an amazing thing to be able to go and speak to these young people. So I look forward to having you back on the show if you're up for it. But again, from me, thank you so much.
Thank you. And yeah, we'll definitely have to connect again in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, that is it for this episode of True Hope Cast, the official podcast of True Hope Canada. We'll be back with you next week. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. You can leave us a little review on iTunes if you want, but that is it for this week. We'll see you soon.